and we're going to be out of our trauma image issues here shortly. And so, welcome in. Let's see how we're doing. This week, I'm supposed to get my Cloud Hub channel up and running. Hey, Rex. Hey, Sandra. Hey. Hey, Praying Medic. Your icon is not on there. How can I see a tweet and no icon? That is no fun. I like seeing the icons. Sandra, I love your little coffee cup one. Hey, Grammy Pam. Thanks for the heart. I am receiving all hearts on deck. Anyway, scroll to the bottom. All right, guys, how are you? Breakthrough. I have been working on Ugly Monkey Baby for all this weekend, and I have finally, hello, COVID operator, I have finally gotten to the place where I know it's really cool. And you know what I love about this hat is it's got a lot of embroidery on it, so it's nice and thick. I am finally at a place where the painting is going to turn into something even more surprising, or it's going to be, I'm sorry about the light, even more, where does that go? In any event, welcome to the imperfect world of fear-free living, which of course is one of the things you have to get to in order to move into fear-free living, is being free to be seen and known as you are. Hey, Greg. And part of doing what I do here is to show up consistently, to be where I am, doing what I do in all its glory and all its goofiness, wackiness, and imperfection. That's why I would dare to paint in front of you, dare to make an Ugly Monkey Baby painting, dare to come every day and just sort of lay it out and be present. There's good afternoon and hi, Greg, and you guys. The thing about learning to live fear-free is a lot of times it's mentored and it is modeled and it is absorbed by the people we're around. You know, when I was little, and then you'll get to see that Baby turned out, Baby has moved out of ugly monkey status now. Baby is moving into something we're going to get excited to give birth to. But you know, growing up, I learned some meta things from my incredible mom, who was a glorious, amazing person, but really, really struggled with a lot of shame. And some of the things that I saw her do, how I saw her respond to rejection and criticism, taught me really deep things about being afraid of rejection and criticism and being afraid to speak the truth. And so I'm taught to be afraid. And this is the thing that really revolutionized my life. And so everything that I do on a daily basis is me learning the skill, the life skill of being free, the life skill of being confident, the life skill of having boundaries, the life skill of saying no to the enemy, the life skill of feeling safe. That's a life skill. The life skill of walking in truth. It's not like just some people have it and some people don't. And my precious mom, you know, Mom, God love you. I know you're just like perfect in heaven now. I can just see you singing opera and stuff. So, you know, more power to you, Mama. But I remember the days when my mom, people, you know, the olden days when we had phones with long cords, and when people would call, you'd have to answer, or it would ring and ring and ring and ring and ring, and you'd never know who tried to call you, and it could be like something super important, like you had to answer your phone. And I remember one time this person called, and my mom goes, oh, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to talk. I can't talk. And so she said, tell them I'm not home. But what she did was she ran out of the house and stood in the driveway, ostensibly, so she wouldn't be lying. And I learned something from that. I learned that it was really dangerous to set a boundary, that it was so dangerous and so scary and so horrifying that the modeling was, oh my gosh, she could die if somebody's mad at her. She could die if she says no. This is really, really bad. The best thing to do if you don't want to talk to someone is hide and lie and get your kid to deal with it. That was a powerful message. Now, Mom taught me some incredible, powerful, positive things. She's the one who taught me beauty. She's the one who gave me music and art. She's the one who wouldn't let me quit piano lessons. But that, and so those things are in me, and those are as deeply ingrained in me, probably more deeply ingrained in me than even the pain is, or even the fear is. What I'm saying to you is that by showing up here day in and day out, however it looks, whatever it is, however the canvas is, wherever we are, it's not about me, my attempt to be relevant. It's about a daily modeling, training, mentoring, and personal growth to learn the life skills of being mature and whole. And by the way, being a whole person comes from holiness, comes from being whole. WHOLE. Holiness, we think, is just trying to do all the right things all the time, right? Hey, Larry, I got to do all these perfect God things, so I'll be holy. But you see, holiness comes from being whole, meaning that all the disparate pieces of your soul are so fused together and restored that there's no place in you for the enemy to have an appeal. Like, you're so whole you don't need the porn. You're so whole you don't have to lie. You're so whole and at peace that out of your mouth consistently flows goodness and blessing. That you're not walking around being a potty mouth just because there's so much anger and bitterness and corruption in you. That the things that we strive in terms of being set apart and whole flow from being whole, as in put together and healed. And so we are in a process between now and election day of becoming whole again as a nation. I'm waving at you, people who are saying hi. And becoming integrated and having the pieces and fragments that were torn apart through trauma and through the things that have happened to us as a nation reintegrated so we can become a sacred, holy nation. So showing up here and just being where I'm at and dealing with what I'm dealing with and looking however I look and the camera being whatever it is not because I don't care about quality. It's because one of the things the Lord showed me was I had to get over myself and stop hiding. That the story of living fear-free and overcoming stage fright and overcoming mental paralysis and trauma is a story of being willing to be seen and known as you are. And there are days you have to get up and go, this is, as much as I'd like to give you the airbrushed, beautiful, I've got it all down, and here's how you do it. Let me give you the bullet points, with the PowerPoints. There's something more powerful about showing up and saying, you know what? By the grace of God, I am what I am. This is where I'm at. This is what it looks like. This is how Monday's rolling. This is what living in this body is. This is what working through these issues are. This is what being in this nation is about. Yeah, uniquely crafted. This is about being whole, coming together, being integrated, being human, and learning the life skill of showing up and growing in wholeness and growing in freedom and learning how not to live afraid, right? So that's kind of what bookends what we do here. Not some desperate attempt for you need to hear what I say or be relevant or have a show or do whatever. In fact, on the weekends when I don't have to say anything to anybody, it's kind of cool, In fact, I'm going to take Friday off this week because my hubby and I are going to do something fun. But it's important that we show up for each other and model the reality. I love when believers tell me about the people who didn't get healed when they prayed for them, or that they don't know that they did, but they stood. I love it when people tell me about their failures and their foibles and the ways that they tried and the time they tried to share the gospel and it went sideways, but they showed up again and again and again. And it's being able to be seen and known in an imperfect, sometimes traumatized, marred state that is the catalyst to really moving into freedom and integration, to where we can show up and we look like we're more and more together. We're getting together. Things are coming together. And the nation is going to come together. And I feel like something shifted, and it shifted on the canvas. So I'm going to show you what was Ugly Baby Monkey, who now, I think he's a boy. I think he looks like a boy to me. And now that I've got this far, then there's going to be a really prophetic, total change. But I don't know if you can see it, but this is, I don't know if you can see yet. And I'm not going for perfect, I'm still going to mess with fingers and toes. But do you see, my biggest thing was proportion, trying to find the right proportion, trying to get the features in so that, and I might play a little bit because I'd like to see little Muji baby lips. And I got to tell you, this umbilical cord thing drove me crazy, just trying to do this. But I finally have a sense that I can see the baby and I can see what's happening, and it's formed itself, and this image of new life coming together has now come into a place enough of integration with the whole painting and peace that I can now just do refinements because I know my goal. And my goal is not, because I'm going to do something different with this that you guys are going to be surprised about, I think maybe, that I can move on to the larger thing. And one of the things I noticed was that there were different examples of umbilical cords. What? No twins? I know. But I had to find somebody who showed me an umbilical cord that I could relate to. Have you ever felt like that? Or showed me a type of painting that I could relate to, or showed me a figure that I thought I could reproduce in my own style. Have you ever thought to yourself, gosh, I just wish somebody could show me an umbilical cord I could relate to? Yeah, I know. This is how I think. I think it's like when I started homeschooling. The reason I didn't for so long was I couldn't relate to the women that I saw doing it. And I didn't paint for a long time because I couldn't relate to the people the paintings that I saw and the people who taught painting and the way they taught it and the way they all painted sailboats in the classes. And I had to find the vision that was close enough to where I am, that I could get to it and stretch into what I didn't know how to paint, and I still don't know how to paint. And when we're God brings us into contact with the mentors and the relationships and the prophets and the prophetic voices and the midwives that are close enough to who we are, that we can imagine ourselves growing to become more like them and more free, but they're farther along, that they stretch us out of our little box, our little quote unquote comfort zone. That happens to me all the time when I paint because I don't know how to paint. I just know how to show up and try a bunch of stuff over and over again. And I paint with acrylics because they're so forgiving. And this shape right here, I've redone this shape so many times. In fact, this weekend I just changed it and put it all black, and now I'm redoing it again. But this little puppy in here, he's almost ready for me to do something very different with the whole canvas and bookend the teaching and come up. And actually now I was saying, Lord, why is this baby in this place, in this shape? Why am I doing this? Because a lot of what I do when I go to the canvas, and you do in your life, is intuitive. I'm an intuitive musician, and I'm an intuitive artist. I'm an intuitive thinker. Stretch marks, thank you so much. We're not going to talk about stretch marks. And you have a very strong intuitive sense. Some of you are more concrete. Some of you are super linear. If you are, well, maybe you're not, because I'd probably be the wrong person. You wouldn't want to. You're like, I don't get that woman. Let me go talk to the engineers. I want to watch scopes only by engineers and mathematicians. Yeah. But my point is while you're working through a healing, while you're working through a transformation, while we're moving out of trauma, this is a painting about overcoming trauma. This is a painting about overcoming trauma, not only personally, but nationally. Okay? Do you remember that this was an Earth floating in a galaxy that got slashed? Do you remember we talked about forgiveness and breaking inner vows and bitterroot expectations? Do you remember we talked about grief and not getting what you think you're supposed to get in the trauma healing process? Do you remember that then that grief turned into a womb? We've been chatting about this and the whole process of recovering from trauma for weeks now. And part of that overcoming process is showing up again and again and again in your healing to become a womb for something new, to let go of what you thought you were going to get, to let go of the America we thought we were going to get. What I mean by that is, some of us, maybe we just want to go back to the 1950s. Maybe we just want to go back to everything the way it was. But what we've been through has forever altered us, and we're going to get restoration, but we're going to have to let go of a lot of ideas about what that looks like. I think God is going to absolutely blow our minds in the Great Awakening, in the healing of the planet and the nations and the country. I think we're going to have to grieve and let go of some things we thought that would be back where we want them. But in this process of being transformed and moved into healing and moved into restoration, thank God for people, prophetic people and mentors who are just who can show us an umbilical cord we can relate to. I had to find an illustration of an umbilical cord that I thought, I think I can paint that one. That makes sense to me. I can see how that one works. I know my skill level can interpret that through, see all these little wavy lines? Well, there were a lot of other ones that looked way more clinical. And I mean, I tried. You guys watched me paint a couple of them here one day. It was awful. I had to find an image that I could relate to, something that was close enough to where I am in my process, that I could go, I think I can learn from that, and that it stretched me farther. Hey, touched by prayer. God brings us people along the way in our healing process who are close enough to where we are, that we have some semblance of resonance with them, that we can imagine that we can get well. That person I can relate to. That person speaks my language. That person, somehow they understand me. They get me. I get them. But there'll always be someone who's farther along who's still going to stretch us past where we feel comfortable. And this is the beauty of what God brings along the way when we're recovering and we're stretching out of trauma and we're stretching out of pain and fear. Because remember, to live fear-free is to learn a life skill. To overcome pain and trauma is to learn life skills. The skill of being loved. Did you know that there's a skill in receiving affirmation? There's a skill in receiving love. There's a skill of how to be taught to have intimacy. There are skills related to how to deal with conflict. All of those are things that are learned. Therefore, they are life skills. And so the thing is that our process brings us into proximity with people who take us way farther than we thought, but God has a way of bringing them close enough for us to orbit around their process and learn a few things, okay? And that's what this painting has been teaching me this weekend, is that just when I was about ready to literally throw the baby out with the bath water, I began to be able to see it a little differently and conceive of how this thing was going to come together. And why is that important to you? Because right now, we've been in a process where God has promised us a baby. God has promised a movement. God has promised us a new life. God has promised us, the remnant people, as well as individuals, to be the womb of what he's doing in the earth. God has promised us an awakening and a reformation and a move. And what happened, and that's a purpose that's been poured into us. We've been given this incredible, magnificent purpose right now as Americans for the sake of the earth. And given this incredible purpose for the sake of all of those around us and for the sake of his glory. And what happens whenever there's a new life purposed? There's a Pharaoh who wants to wipe it out. There's a Herod who wants to wipe it out. There's a process of transformation that seems so hopeless and so frustrating that the ugly monkey baby of what we're dealing with, things like, is never going to happen. It's never going to come forth. And the restoration life we're bringing forth from coming out. But it's not going to work. It's not going to work. God is bringing for you and for me those voices that we can relate to, that can encourage us, that are honest. They show up where they are, how they are, dealing with what they're dealing with. Mask, no mask, this, that, parent issues, family issues, whatever, showing up in the midst of all this crucible we're in, and daily whacking away at learning how to be whole, learning how to be free, learning how to love, learning how to have confidence, learning how to have faith, learning how to be fear-free. And we show up for each other again and again and again. And we get mentored out of the old and into the new. And meanwhile, the baby's growing. And we're learning to see. And we're learning to grow. And we're learning to paint. And no matter what Pharaoh does to try to kill this thing off, it's coming. It's coming. We are giving birth to a big, beautiful, gorgeous move of God. And God is transforming us so we can even see it, so we can see ourselves differently, our situations differently. You know, creative ways to solve problems and conflict right now. Creative ways to overcome what the enemy has sent against us. You know, David was praying for witty inventions. Give me witty ways to move around the machinations of the enemy and still show up to bring the kingdom. Witty ways to outsmart in conflict what the enemy planned, to deal with the limitations put on me daily by these tyrannical things surrounding us. Witty, sneaky ways to show up and plant my flag and say, I will love, I will heal, I will walk in confidence. I don't care what you do. I got a baby, my baby's growing, and I'm getting ready to bring it forth. Okay? I want to leave it there today, but I want to tell you, I'm going to do live stream concert from here. And country album out a few years ago, and she's going to be here, this painting, and do a teaching about what God has. I'm like, I literally am going, why am I painting this baby like this? Why in this shape? Why? See, he's starting to look cute. You see the face? You don't know how I just tripped over this. So I'm going to finish this painting up. I'm going to do some teaching. Now I can see. Sometimes God will have you go to the canvas of your life, paint things you don't understand why, you don't understand what he's doing. Then he begins to put the pieces together and you go, oh, wow, that's cool. So now I have some prophetic teaching to do around this painting and what he's doing in us and what he's doing in us as a nation. So I'm going to finish that up this week, and then I'll probably have a down day. We're going to do a little travel. But on this weekend, I want to do a concert for you, a live stream concert, and I'm hoping my friend Larissa can join in, and we'll just celebrate some fear-freeness. Is it, do you remember the movie Chariots of Fire? Do you remember how the guy, what's his name? The missionary guy in Chariots of Fire who loved to run. And his sister was worried that if he ran in the Olympics, that it would be a distraction from his call to China. And Jenny, his sister's name was Jenny. And she said, I'm worried about you. If you run and you get in the Olympics, what about your call to China? And he said, Jenny, this is really bad, little replay, but it's one of my favorite quotes of it. Jenny, I know God made me for China, but he also made me fast, and I feel his pleasure when I run. Don't worry your pretty little head about it, Jenny. I feel his pleasure when I run. And I feel his pleasure, and you will feel his pleasure when you do the things that you've been of love you were too afraid to receive. The song you were too afraid to sing. The painting, the ugly monkey baby painting you were too afraid to paint. the conversation you avoided, the things in you that were traumatized in run. When you let that gift come out of you, the one that Satan precisely tried to silence and kill, we will feel his pleasure as America steps into her destiny. Eric Little, that's right. We will feel his pleasure as we step into our own purpose, especially if the enemy has spent a lot of time trying to kill that in you. You are going to feel and sense his pleasure as you do it anyway. And showing up for me to sing is like that. Showing up to paint, showing up to be here, showing up to be wrinkled or broken or human. We meet him in his pleasure of what he's placed in us, right? So that's what I have for you. Don't give up. If my ugly monkey baby can even transform even to something slightly better. I mean, it's not. Look, I'm not Picasso. I'm not. I'm no Shakespeare. I'm no Da Vinci. Hey, look, I'm not a rocket surgeon. Okay. I'm not the cure for cancer. But I'm showing up, and we're learning to do this together because we're going to overcome our national trauma, our individual trauma. We have a job to do, and that's my encouragement for you today. I think this week, as I change the painting into its kind of prophetic destiny, I'll have some substantial things to share with you about that and about where we're headed. And then I hope to end the weekend with a concert of some sort. In any event, do something that scares you precisely because on the other side of it, God is going to be with you, taking pleasure in your decision to be free and to express what he's given to you. That can only be expressed through your humanity and your brokenness and your process, right? Yeah,